Hello and welcome to Creator Weekly for August 10th, 2025. I'm Peggy Kay. This week there's a bunch of updates for Instagram and for YouTube, for live streaming, for bloggers. Bunch of interesting updates this week. So let's get started. I hope you are all having a lovely summer weekend. I know they finally had this first super warm weekend, and honestly, I like it cooler. But summer is summer, right? Anyway, let's get started. So I wanted to start with a few YouTube updates. Back in January, there were these terribly devastating wildfires in LA County. And a lot of creatives were affected, lost their homes, lost all of their belongings, lost their creative work. And so at the time, YouTube said that they would be donating money to help people. Finally, they gave more specifics of that. There is a new fund, and YouTube has pledged $3 million. So if you're in Los Angeles, check out the Entertainment Community Fund page. It actually lists a number of different funds. The money from YouTube requires either being in the YouTube Partner Program, working for someone who's in the YouTube Partner Program in a creative capacity, editors, talent agencies, that sort of thing. You have to submit documentation. This is for people who lost their homes. So if you're in Los Angeles County, you should check this out. So the first big update, not a huge update, the first update I wanted to talk about is that you can now create stickers from your own images in the YouTube Shorts editor. So you use the YouTube mobile app, you say you want to create a short, and once you've made that, you see in the menu the option to add a sticker. And there's several different stickers you can add now, but choose an image sticker, then choose one of the images on your device. You can choose the shape of the frame around it. There's, square, circle, oblong, different shapes. And then you can choose to position that wherever you want on the short, and you can make it bigger or smaller. You notice, these are screenshots I took, you notice that the Shorts editor does have guides that show you sort of a ghost area where you should not have images or stickers or other content, because it will be blocked by all the things on top of the Shorts video. But once you do that, then you can finish up your short. I think this is kind of a fun update if you're creating shorts. YouTube also announced that if you have content removed for community guidelines issues or your channel is terminated, you now only have 1 year to appeal. And they also limit the number of appeals for terminated channels you can submit. YouTube says this is to limit abuse. You can imagine if someone's submitting appeals over and over and over again, or if they wait 5 years to appeal, that kind of clogs the system, and that isn't possible anymore. So if you have content removed from your channel, make sure to appeal as soon as you can, if it was removed in error, of course. Also, review the community guidelines. Make sure you know what the policy is. There was a nice tip from YouTube this week. The question is, should you make videos on the same topic, or should you make videos on different topics? And you can read the whole tip here. It's kind of nuanced, but the bottom line is, if you want to grow your channel, it's probably best to stay on the same topic. That way you gain an audience, and if they are interested in your content, they can watch a bunch of other content too, that kind of binge watch. It also establishes you as sort of an expert in whatever area that you are creating your videos in. On the other hand, if you're interested in different topics, it can be worth giving that a try. It might take YouTube longer to find an audience for your new content if you change topics, but it can be worth it. So that's up to you, depending on what you're trying to do. And of course, if you're not enjoying making the content you're making now, it's probably worth thinking about making different content instead. So I just want to take a moment and say welcome to everyone in the live chat. I would love to hear what you think about this week's updates. And if there's new features, have you tried those features and what do you think? So I'm going to move over. There's just a quick update this week from Twitch. Twitch launched something called the Channel Switcher in 2022. This was an experiment. It let viewers browse through stream previews ad-free. This week, they rolled back that experiment because it wasn't effective in helping streamers grow their communities. Of course, this is a problem with all kinds of live streaming because people can only discover your live stream when you're actually live, especially on Twitch, where they aren't really encouraging people to keep an archive of their completed live streams. That's why they push clips so hard, for example, because people can consume those and see if they like your content. So let me switch over here. Andrew says, I'm so glad to see YouTube limit the appeal stuff. Should have happened years ago. Yeah. It is interesting. I'm a little surprised that they were accepting appeals for so long. Obviously they need to have enough person power, support power to actually review those appeals. So for most people, this is not going to make any difference, right? You see that something was removed incorrectly, you appeal, and then it's done. So I wanted to give a couple of updates about platforms that help you live stream. The first is for StreamYard. And I just wanted to note that vertical video is big. Vertical live streaming is big. You can vertically live stream on YouTube. It's in the Shorts feed. It's highly discoverable. You can vertical live stream on TikTok, on Instagram, all these platforms. Of course, it's designed usually to do that from your phone, but you can use platforms like StreamYard to live stream vertically. And the update this week from StreamYard is now they have a bunch of options that let you customize the layout for vertical live streams. You can make it look however you like, make it really visually engaging, whether you're on the live stream yourself or you have someone else on the show with you. It's kind of fun. So if you have StreamYard, you should check this out, especially if you have guests or want features that aren't available inside the native live streaming platforms. So for example, on YouTube, you can live stream from your YouTube app if you have 50 subscribers, and then there's specific features like stickers and stuff inside the live stream when you do that. All right. The other platform I want to talk about is Restream. Restream is what I'm using right now. I like it a lot. They just announced that they are automatically creating transcripts of your live streams. Restream also records a copy of your live stream if you have a paid account, and you can download that for 2 weeks. Now there's also a transcript. You can download it either as just text, or you can download it with the timestamps. And the reason why you would want to do that is then you can repurpose that text. You can create a blog post. You could create a social media post. You can take that text and you can put it in Notebook LM or your favorite AI platform, and it can create a summary for you. It could probably also figure out the chapters. So this is new. I'm going to try it with my live stream, download it, and see if it can generate the chapter timestamps for me, because that's, just one more thing that you have to deal with. And then the last live streaming update I wanted to mention is Substack. Now, at this point, Substack is not so much a newsletter platform. It's more a social media platform that lets you create newsletters. They have live streaming there. And if you live stream on Substack, it's now easier to manage your guests. And you will be proactively sent a reminder if your guest has not installed the Substack app and signed in 3 hours before the event. So it's basically telling you, look, your guest may not be ready yet. You can also send a reminder to guests, and all from inside the Activity Center on Substack. Substack is one of these things where it has a lot of features. There's social engagement, but they also like to platform literal Nazis. Yeah, it's not for me. But lots of people use it, non-Nazis use it. So you might check it out if that's something you want to do, engage people with both text and live stream. So I'm going to get into a slightly more complicated update right now. This is for both YouTube partners and AdSense publishers. If you use AdSense ads on your own website or on YouTube, you have some control over the ads that display. You can block specific categories of ads from appearing on your content. But Google occasionally changes up those categories. And the latest announcement is that Google will stop blocking the bare skin image-only sensitive ad category on YouTube starting August 15th. And there's a similar AdSense for content category, significant skin exposure. They're going to stop blocking that on September 30th. So if you have those categories blocked, you're going to have to change your settings because those blocks will stop working. And Google says that, there's overlapping categories that you can block instead.
Sorry, I can't do that. Please turn on Wi-Fi and try again.
My Google Home was just triggered. Okay. So in sensitive categories, you can block, instead of bare skin, you can block references to sex, sexual reproductive health, or dating. And in the general categories, you can block underwear and swimwear as topics. Those are in the apparel topics. So you go into the apparel category, and then there's a subcategory for underwear and swimwear. If you block those, that's going to block most of the bare skin ads on your content. I'll note I have 2 pictures here. If you are a YouTube partner, you can find these settings in YouTube Studio on desktop under settings and then ad categories. If you are an AdSense publisher, you go into your AdSense account, go to brand safety, content, and blocking controls. You'll actually see AdSense for YouTube has similar categories in the menu in AdSense, but it will just point you back to YouTube Studio. So I think you need to figure out if there are categories of ads you don't want appearing on your content, and check to make sure you have the blocking controls you want. Importantly, this does not change the ads you see on other people's content. So that's a separate set of settings in your Google account. So now I'm jumping over to Instagram. Instagram announced a bunch of updates this week. The big thing that people are talking about are a new Friends map. This was launched in North America. You can find this in the mobile app on the Messages tab, and you can opt in to have it show your real-time location. And you can choose to share that with your friends. So that's people you follow who follow you back, close friends or selected people, or you can just say no. Um, a lot of this discussion is that it wasn't clear from the outset that this was opt-in only, and it's kind of confusing because if people tag locations in a story or a reel or a post and you follow them, that will appear on the map, even if they've turned off location sharing, because it's public content with a tag. And so, some of this may be limited to creator and business accounts, I'm not sure, but definitely check your settings in Instagram and be aware that if you're sharing locations on any kind of content you post, it may appear on the map. And this is all to appeal to younger users. It's similar to SnapMap and Snapchat. And I'll just say that Meta employees have been kind of rude about all this because a lot of people had concerns about privacy, and truly, people don't trust Meta at all. But there's this post, this guy, he's like one of the designers on Instagram, and he's like, younger generations get it and love it. Boomers don't understand it and freak out. I mean, screw you, right? They're so rude. And honestly, I'm an older folks myself, and I totally get what this is. I still have concerns because of my own personal experience with Meta and with how hard it is to maintain your privacy. So for example, if you limit it to friends, that sounds good on its face, but if you follow and follow back a lot of random people, that's a lot of people seeing your actual physical location, maybe at your home, your school, your work. Not great. So anyway, Meta just doesn't seem to understand people's concerns. And really, ultimately, it's largely because people don't trust Meta and Facebook and Instagram to maintain people's privacy. This is also a new update that I really like on Instagram. You can repost other accounts' reels and posts. So now it's like every other social media platform, X, Facebook, anywhere you are, now you can click a little repost button, and all the likes and views and shares of the reshared post go back to the original creator. So this is good for creators. And you can add your own little comment, like if you're quote tweeting or whatever, you can make a little comment about it that people will see. And on your profile and Instagram, there's a new reshared content tab, and people can go to that tab and see everything that you've reshared. So I think this is really useful if you want to reshare something. And now there's no excuse for people to re-upload other creators' photos or reels. If you want to share it, you should reshare it. And then Instagram now has a Friends tab when you're in the Reels feed. So when you're looking at Reels in the mobile app, you'll see at the top an option, Friends. If you tap that, what you see is a feed of Reels that your friends have engaged with. So you'll see if your friend liked the video, if they commented on the video, and I personally think it's a little creepy, and it makes me think twice before liking or commenting on something, knowing that someone I'm connected with can just go through and see that so easily. It's kind of a weird thing. Like these platforms always say, well, it's public. You did this publicly anyway, but it's different when there's a push of this information to others rather than them just seeing it spontaneously. So those are the updates from Instagram I'm going to mention this week. There were actually a couple of others. Be sure to check out this week's newsletter and blog post. There's a link in the description. It has all this week's updates and links and news. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you get it in your email inbox every Saturday. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. This is an update information for people who blog or publish other things on the web, not social media, not YouTube. So there was a recent report from Pew Research that found that Google users were less likely to click on result links when visiting search pages with an AI summary compared to those without one. For searches that resulted in an AI-generated summary, users very rarely clicked on the sources cited. And there's lots of website owners that are saying this actually matches what they're seeing. They've seen a big drop in traffic from Google search. I know it's not just small blogs, it's also like CNN, big news sites. Now, Google finally responded to this, and they're like, no, what we're doing is not a problem. We're not actually killing traffic to websites. Okay, they didn't say it like that. That's what I say. But here's what Google is arguing. They're saying people are doing more searches than they used to because they love these AI overviews so much. They say that there are slightly more quality clicks to websites. No percentages, no numbers here, but they're saying that it's slightly more likely that when people do click, they're really interested in the content on the page and they'll spend time on the website. And then they say the traffic may be different now. People are looking for authentic voices. So they want to visit forums, watch videos, listen to podcasts, see posts where they can hear firsthand perspectives about things. And they also want to learn more. So they're clicking on things that are more like research, a deep dive, that sort of thing. So they're saying there's pretty much the same amount of traffic. It's just going to different places. Now, I'm sure it's true. So here's the thing. I don't think Google lies about these things, but I think they massage the way it's shared with the public. They did not provide any numbers. So what we're talking about may be small increases or decreases. It's really hard to judge. There's not enough information given in Google Search Console for website owners to really evaluate this very easily. So people aren't convinced. This seems really self-serving, especially since Google made a point of saying that third-party reports showing a dramatic decline in clicks are often based on flawed methodologies, isolated examples, or traffic changes that occurred prior to the rollout of AI features in search. Again, there's no specifics there. I mean, I'd buy that a lot more if they said, look, there's this particular study, what they found, here's why we don't think that this is accurate information. But they didn't. They just said, trust us, it's wrong, and AI overviews aren't killing the web. Guess we'll see. You can tell I'm slightly skeptical. Ghost has an update. Now, Ghost is an open source newsletter and blogging platform. You can pay for hosting from Ghost directly, or you can install it on your own server. They just released Ghost 6.0, and it's notable because it has built-in networked publishing. So people can discover, follow, like, and reply to your post across Blue Sky, Flipboard, Threads, Mastodon, WordPress, if people have ActivityPub features installed. And so the idea is that there's social features built in. You don't need to create a separate profile on all these different social media sites because this is your profile and it has your content. You can comment, people can comment yours. I really love this idea of the social web, and people are pushing it, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not sure it will be that popular. Will it ever take over social media, I'm not sure, but I feel like there's a drift in that direction. So this is an exciting update. And then the last update I wanted to mention is for Substack. They introduced A/B title testing for newsletter headlines. The idea is that if you have a lot of subscribers, there are some headlines people are more likely to click than others. And so you can test that. They split up. You can enter multiple headlines, titles, subject lines, and they go out to different people, and then they compare the open rates. This is available to anyone on Substack with at least 200 subscribers, because if you don't have that many, they can't really run a test. And the data, if it looks like this, it looks nice and clean, very useful, helpful data. I use Beehive for my newsletter. They do have A/B testing, but you have to have a paid account, and I'm just using the free platform, so I can't test it. But I think this is really good. And so much of what we do as creatives, YouTube, blog post, it hinges on having a really good title, because that's what gets people to click and view your content in the first place. You can have the most amazing content in the world, and if you don't have a title that piques people's curiosity, they're never going to see it. And I know I'm not great at making titles, so I would love to do this kind of testing. All right, so what was happening 10 years ago? I always finish up with this because I'm doing a retrospective. 10 years ago, 2015, because that's when I started my newsletter in 2015. And 2015 turned out to be an interesting year in technology. So 10 years ago this week, Alphabet launched as a public company and Google became its subsidiary. So Google co-founder and CEO Larry Page said, "This newer Google is a bit slimmed down with the companies that are pretty far afield of our main internet products contained in Alphabet instead." So the idea was, well, previously it was just Google, and they had all of these different projects, not just YouTube and blogging and Google Workspace and all these things. Instead, they also had these other products that weren't really related. So now there's a new parent company and subsidiaries, and those subsidiaries include Waymo, which is self-driving, Wing, drone delivery, Google Fiber, Calico, which is a subsidiary that does experiments for technology around health and aging, and a bunch of others. At the same time, they named Sundar Pichai as the new CEO of Google. He'd been the senior vice president of products and led the announcements at Google I/O in 2015, so it wasn't that surprising. But up until this point, Google was led by the co-founders, Sergey Brin and Larry Page. And eventually, what happened is that Page and Brin stepped down as heads of Alphabet, and Sundar Pichai took over that as well. So in 2019, he became the head of both Alphabet and Google. I'm not sure that is necessarily good. Google also redesigned their logo. And it's notable because the original logo at the top, it was designed for a desktop browser page. The new logo is designed for what people were actually using, a huge number of different devices from very small to very big and different kinds of inputs. So it's simplified text in part because it has to look good at different sizes. And this felt very much like Google was getting a fresh start. They pared back Google+. Google Photos was a huge hit. They were focusing on mobile for the next billion users. And since then, of course, there's been some dramatic changes. COVID, with people working from home, that really boosted Google Workspace. And now AI and everything. Google is profitable. The question is, it's been 10 years, the same leadership. Do they need somebody out there with bigger ideas? I don't know. I'm not sure it will happen. And more changes will happen soon, but maybe they will. So that's where we are. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I will see you all next Sunday. Oh, I wanted to mention, Nina says, going back to Google's AI overviews, from my short experience, AI overviews serve a layer of conversation that is more like chat or orientation. For in-depth specialized conversation, websites are still the valid resources. Is that wrong? I mean, I totally agree with that, but it's not clear that most people do. I think a lot of people get the AI overview and they're like, okay, that's good enough. I'm just going to move on to something else, maybe do another search. So anyway, I'd like to think people like to still read blogs and so forth, but maybe not. Anyway, I will see you all next Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me.